In the heart of the night, this world will burn bright. We will set it alight. In the heart of the night, in the heart of the night, this world will burn bright. We will set it alight. In the heart of the night.
Hello everyone, I am Anthropomantic crap. Hold on. I refuse to do a movie review without sunglasses. Anyway, hello everyone, I am Anthropomantic Fiend, and I do horror-related things on the internet. Continuing this little series of Bela Lugosi movies I've been reviewing, I am reviewing The Human Monster from 1939. Anyway, that's the title it's under on the box set I've got, and that was its US release title. In the UK, it was known as Dark Eyes of London. Kind of a given that it's a black and white movie, but anyway. Stars Bela Lugosi as Dr. Orloff, who runs this insurance company, and you kind of know he's nefarious. You know, he is plotting ways to kill off all of these people for their money. I didn't completely understand it, actually. I had to look it up. There's also a lot of scenes going on in this home for the blind. You can tell that something nefarious is happening there. Somebody's using this place as a cover-up due to a bunch of murders that are happening, which we kind of can infer is because of Dr. Orloff, because it's Lugosi. This detective comes in from America and is working with Scotland Yard. I don't entirely know why, but I was a bit confused by this movie anyway. But before I talk about that, I'm going to talk about a few of the good points. The music, again, sort of that classic melodramatic 30s and 40s horror music. Nothing particularly stand out, and honestly, this movie just goes the Dracula Frankenstein route of not having music through most of it, which I think works to its detriment. It's shot decently. It's not especially stylish, but everything looks fine, and I like the sets and costumes, even though there's nothing really stand out about them. Lugosi is doing his Lugosi thing once again, which I always enjoy. He is not as gloriously melodramatic as he is in, say, The Devil Bat, but I don't think he's ever going to top The Devil Bat in terms of melodrama. Maybe he has. If he has, please direct me to the movie where he does, because I have to watch it. This is a slightly more serious movie than The Devil Bat is, so he delivers with the right amount of melodrama. No other characters really grab you, acting-wise, but they do their jobs well. You've also got this character, I forget what his name is. He is basically this thug character working with Orloff and carrying out all the murders for him, and he is made up in monster makeup for whatever reason, and he's got these abnormal teeth and just kind of generally monstery, but he's even got like little points on the tips of his ears, so I appreciate good monster makeup. It felt weird and a little bit out of place in this movie, but I still thought it looked cool and creepy, so pro and con there. I have other good points, but I'd like to get to those in a little bit, because my main struggle with this movie is it's not exactly a horror movie. It's, especially earlier on, relying it's relying a lot more on the murder mystery aspect than anything else. I don't have a problem with that, but it starts to kind of drag, and there's not as much human interest there. They haven't really developed these characters in a way such that when people are being killed off, I really care. It just doesn't really expose the characters enough. It just kind of throws you into this plot and hopes you'll catch up, and it's kind of just sort of feels sort of dry and academic, almost just sort of working through this murder mystery without really feeling invested in the people and worrying about that. That changes by the end of the movie, and there are scenes that I was very invested in, which I will talk about in the spoilers, but through a lot of the beginning of the movie, it might be because I was also distracted. I was still waking up this morning, might not have been the easiest thing to watch, although I did watch, Meadowwoods and Nightmare at Bitter Creek and, The Familiar and movies that I forever want to blot out of my memory in the morning. This is not one of those movies. This is a great movie. I mean, not really, really good, but it has good points, most of which come up later on, and it's well made. I just wasn't invested in it at first. I've kind of run you through the general plot points as I understand them. Lugosi's got this elaborate setup of how he's killing people to get their money. I don't really understand it, but I didn't really understand the mystery aspect was the problem, which might be me or it might be the movie, and it's probably a combination of both. I probably just wasn't in the right headspace for that. Maybe I'll rewatch it and really try to follow that, but I feel like I shouldn't have been left behind. This is a decent mystery with horror elements. The horror elements come later, so you might want to stick around for those. There was a twist that I did not see coming that was really good, actually, and some very intense scenes at the end that I was invested in, and some moments that for 1939 were pretty brutal, and I appreciated. I don't think this is a must-watch, but I think there are good points in it that are worth checking it out for. And I also believe that Christopher Lee, who is, I would say, tied with Vincent Price for my favorite actor at this point, this was one of the movies that he really liked as a kid, if I remember correctly. He talked about this movie as a movie that scared him when he was a kid, in regards to some of the scenes at the end, which I'm going to get to. So I can't really push it to the side if Christopher Lee is giving it a thumbs up like that. I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was a really good movie. I didn't think the plot was that interesting, but it was decent, and I'm a broken record at this point, but there were definitely some good parts around the end. So that is the non-spoiler section of my review of The Human Monster, aka The Dark Eyes of London. So check it out if you want to, but you don't have to. You don't have to check out anything I recommend, but there are other movies that I really press on. You have to see this. This isn't one of those, but you kind of know that already. Anyway, on to the spoilers. There are some actually pretty noteworthy kills in this movie. There's a scene where one guy, I don't actually remember who he is, but he is in the bathtub and he's singing very loudly. The thug character, I don't totally remember his name. I wrote it down as Jake because I think that's what I heard. Might be wrong. He's singing very loudly in the bathtub, and Jake just kind of comes in and pushes him down into the bathtub and drowns him. It's not super noteworthy, but it was just sort of this very loud melodramatic singing, and then Jake walking in and pushing him down, and there was a lot of feelings that I was feeling during that scene. It was just very comical at first, and then oh god. That is not nearly as brutal as what happens later, because in this Home for a Blind there's a guy who is both blind and mute, but he can still hear, so he's been sending notes out to people to try to, notify them of what Lugosi's been doing. So Lugosi has this electrical machine in there that he hooks up to the guy's ears and makes him deaf. And it's brutal, because he's just kind of sitting there, just lying there. He's crippled, so he can't really move. He is blind and he can't speak, and now he can't see, so he's basically just this shell of a guy sitting there, and he can still feel things, but he can't do anything about it, and it's terrifying to think about. It's just really creepy. They can't get any more information about him, and out of him, and it's just kind of terrifying. We get the big reveal of this movie, which is there's this blind man who's been running this place, and you kind of think he's alright. You don't find him particularly suspicious, but after people go on a manhunt for Orloff, after it's revealed that he's murdered all these people, this detective woman who we've been following goes in to investigate and basically exposes him, and it's revealed that he is not blind at all, and he's been doing something devious. Again, I found this movie kind of hard to follow, so I'm not entirely sure, but then we get this reveal where he stops talking in the voice that he's been talking in for the entire movie and starts speaking in a Hungarian accent. And then you realize who you're looking at behind this white beard and mustache and this long white wig and these eyes. And it's Lugosi. Because he's had this dubbed British accent for the past half of the movie in this outfit, you never suspect that it's him. But then he starts taking it all off, and I was sort of freaking out because I just really appreciate good twists, and I did not see that coming in the slightest. And then he ends up tying her up and drowning the blind and mute guy. At least I think that's who it is. Again, I was a little lost, but ends up filling this huge tank with water that nobody else evidently has been able to see because blind. Drowns this guy who basically has no control over his body at all, and it's pretty horrifying. She just has to sit there and watch it. She's apparently going to get killed the same way a bunch of other people get killed, because he drowns people in this tank and then throws them out of the window where they get dragged into the river, where they will be found later. You sort of have this sort of sympathetic monster thing going on with Jake, if his name is Jake, and you feel a little bad for him. Apparently somebody that he cares about has been killed by Lugosi, and before he can drown this woman, she tells him that, and he gets angry and throws Lugosi out the window instead. And he lands in this quicksand, which has been established before, but I was still also, again, a little lost. But anyway, he lands in the quicksand, and we get this closing shot, which is followed by this sort of typical comic relief type ending for one of these movies, which offsets the horror a little bit. But Lugosi lands in this quicksand, and we just get this scene of his head. He's submerged up to his neck and just screaming his lungs out as he sinks. The ending of this movie, goes pretty hard for 1939. So, yeah, that is The Human Monster, aka Dark Eyes of London. The ending is worth it. The rest of the movie felt kind of dull to me, but it may be worth a rewatch later, because I wasn't entirely in the movie's headspace at first. So, that's my review of Human Monster, aka Dark Eyes of London. Thank you for watching this video and checking me out, and I hope that I will see you in another video. Bye.